What what should I do about red dye? So, red dye is very interesting and incredibly controversial. So, depending on who you ask, there are certain things that red dye has been associated with. So, again, depends on who you ask. Some folks feel that it contributes to childhood irritability and hyperactivity and impulsivity and moodiness. This is it's a very controversial statement, and it's a controversial approach. And I say that because these studies have not been clearly indicative of an issue. So, in other words, they did studies and they try to randomly control for different things in the scientific method. And there's been no conclusive studies that say red dye is harmful. Now, anecdotally, so ANECTOTALLY, anecdotally, I think is how you spell it. It's a fancy way of saying in my experience. So, meaning something that I've seen with my own eyeballs. And anecdotally, we've seen where red dye can be very problematic for certain kids, especially kids who are kind of neurodiverse, kids with intellectual disabilities or with social skills deficits due to autism. And so some of my parents will come in and say, "Oh yeah, I cut out the red dye, and so did amazing." And to that, I say, "That's fantastic. So keep it up as long as it is not cost prohibitive, as long as it is not interrupting that child or that person's ability to be in a social setting. Then I say take out the red dye." I will say this: this is a broad statement and will probably get me into a whole lot of trouble with everybody, but oh well. Which is our foods, the things that we eat, especially when you eat prepackaged stuff, is loaded with not so good stuff. It's loaded with preservatives and all sorts of ugh. And so the more fast food and the more pre-prepared and packaged foods that you eat, you're going to feel more ugh because they use more salt to as a preservative. They'll use sugar to sweeten the deal. They use fat to make it taste more rich, and all of those things, if it's out of proportion, can cause their own issues. And so, if you'll notice, most vegetables, fresh fruits and vegetables, don't have red dye. So put that in your pipe and smoke it. The healthy pipes, there's probably not any healthy pipes, but you know what I mean. And so yeah, so what should you do about red dye? Just be mindful that it's basically in anything that looks pink or red, especially when it comes to candies and certain foods. Read your packages. I'm a big fan of reading package labels. I think sometimes it's too much information, so you get analysis paralysis because you'll start to see that everything is, every non-pronounceable thing is in every product that ever existed. So, be thoughtful on which poison you're going to pick. And then with the red dye situation, again, just know that it's out there. And don't feel one way or another. If you don't have an opinion, you can stay not have an opinion. But generally, if you can decrease the amount of preservatives in food and colors, then artificial colors, then try to do so.